Close enough, and we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. I just wanted to open it up to let y'all know that we're just sort of gonna discuss in an open forum, loot council, loot, and things of the sort. Questions, comments, concerns to be addressed by myself, Offense, and Max, who are y'all's loot council members. We have other members of the leadership council here as well, in case questions need to be answered by them. I just sort of wanted to preface this by stating that we're all here to answer questions, come up with solutions, sort of fill in the blanks for some people who have any discrepancies or questions about Loot Council, but I ask that we do it in a professional and calm manner. Loot can get people's blood boiling and emotions can get flying, but I ask that we answer and ask questions without character assassinations, personal attacks, anything like that. Just sort of ask a question, and myself, Offense, Max, whoever else is involved will respond and answer any of your things. Does anybody have anything else from the Loot Council that would like to piggyback off that with?
No, that sounds pretty good.
I'm sorry, I'm here. I just need 1 second. I'm making a plate of food.
Okay. Has everybody had an opportunity to familiarize themselves further with Snow's video?
Yep.
Did anybody find anything in there that they found useful?
Wait, what video?
Exactly. Snow put out a video in, I don't know what channel, but one of the channels in
Loot Priority
Discord,
channel.
and the Loot Priority channel, about how our Loot Council works, how to get Loot Council, how to do the settings, the interpretation of the different options in response to loot, the need, minor upgrade, greed, and pass buttons, along with learning how to view and record loot history and a couple other things. She did a really good job at that, so go check that out, or ask questions here, either way. I'm sure there will be some redundancy in the video that we address here, but that's fine as well.
I thought the history was really cool. That was interesting.
Yeah, a bunch of useful information. Some of the times it bugs out and there'll be weeks or days or whatever where the loot history isn't recorded. Haven't really figured that one out, but it is quite frustrating. So it's just it's the tools we got though.
I have a question about it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of speaking on the behalf of a lot of people for this. This video states just because you're top DPS, you're not guaranteed a piece of gear. Just because you're top heals, you're not guaranteed a piece of gear. Just because you show up prepared and you play your role correctly, you're not guaranteed a piece of gear. My question is, what gets you gear? How I thought that those were major factors on how you received gear.
I forget the exact wording of the way that Snow said it, but she addressed even further in depth on that answer. She was saying that top DPS, top heals, and those things aren't the only underlying issues upon how people vote for them. For instance, on certain fights for mages, there's very dispel heavy. We spend half of our active time actually just dispelling, and if you look at any of our parses on Lucifron, Gehinnis, and Shaz, you'll notice that where offense is pumping out 1.2k DPS, I'm pumping out like 100 or 2 if I can get a frostbolt off in between all the dispels. So those aren't the only things that are factored into loot. It isn't just like who can press their buttons the best, the fastest. It's who can do that while also maintaining the overall necessities for each core raider to do. If you're standing in fire constantly, you're getting people wiped, you're not dispelling, you're not healing, or anything like that. Those are things that are factored into it, as well as attendance, as well as showing up prepared, showing up on time, things like that, not leaving early, not taking long AFK breaks during it. These are all things that are sort of factored in. So there isn't necessarily one legitimate answer that I can sit here and say, here's your formula, write it on out on your chalkboard, but there are a bunch of other underlying issues.
I do find the dispelling thing like actually really reassuring because I'm happy to dispel if like it won't like penalize me in the future for whether I'm worthy of gear or something. I'll dispel like a madman. So that was nice to know.
Yeah,
it's part of
100%.
the mechanics of raid. So you kind of want everyone to be rewarded for what they accomplishing in a raid.
And it's not just parses and charts that happen on bosses. It's also what happens during raid, clearing trash, things of the sort like that as well. There's a bunch of different stuff that occurs when those decisions are made.
Hi, sorry I joined late.
It's okay, Arch. We were just discussing the different factors that go into determining who gets gear. Did that sort of answer your question, Ace, or is there another area that we need to go into a little?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the video and I heard that part. I just think that those things should be taken more into factor, and less of the whole let's be like very fair on how you get loot. I just feel like, and I know a lot of other people do, and if they don't want to speak up, I don't really care. But the whole let's be fair and nice and we he, to me, dude, I mean, it's just kind of like it's kind of shit. If you gear your better people faster, raids will go by faster, and other people who want those things will get geared faster. I know that's kind of not how we work, but I know a lot of people, just kind of feel that way. And
just because there's other factors in determining when people get loot and stuff like that doesn't mean that performance isn't something that's valued as well.
I think
there are
also
certain-
too, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine.
Being prepared should be looked at a little bit more. I think we can look at raid logs and see who's prepared, who's popping consumables, who's using poisons, who's ultimately doing their part the most, who's bubbling when they're supposed to, who's I mean, I don't know your guys' jobs. I'm just a rogue. I just slap things, but I know some people complain about stuff like that.
Okay, so building up to that point, right? So I do have a kind of thing that I want to bring up. I know our guild. It's kind of, let's say when let's say loot council occurs, they also take into your account what gear you're currently using, etc. I think it's also probably more fair to only take into consideration when you're considering like the gear upgrade, right? If you're considering what people got out of the guild instead of what they have earned by themselves. So I think that's also one of the factors to consider. So for example, I mean, let's say I am currently at rank 11 and I have all those PvP gear, which is decent for raid. But let's say if an upgrade comes up and it's maybe a minor upgrade for me versus let's say a very very big upgrade for someone else, yeah, I can see what if you want to give it to the other person, but sometimes also take into consideration that don't take like we have our rank or our gear for granted. That's also something we worked outside of the raid. So I think that's also something to be considered.
We take PvP into consideration.
Yeah.
That's part of why
And-
Uther got first chromatic boots is because he won't need other gear.
And to further expand upon that, that is something that is considered quite I'm not going to say heavily, but we do look into it when raiders show up. We don't really have the issue all that much now, but for getting Prebis, Bloodbind, for example, the amount of effort that you're willing to put into your character is also mimicked by the amount of consideration that you get for those large upgrades. People coming into raid with nothing but greens and stuff like that and not caring to go out and farm the pieces that will better affect the raid sort of have a contributing factor to replacement gear as well.
Loud pack.
Yeah.
So yeah, upgrades, the overall upgrade is looked at, but if it's somebody walking in with, you know, the neck from Scarlet Monastery versus somebody who's got the Star of Mysteria, then it's a pretty easy decision to sit there and say, well, like, okay, this person's actually farming their Prebus. I don't know all of the Prebus for the other classes, so I'm just using the stuff I'm familiar with in Caster Loot. But yes,
Oh.
the consumes and stuff like that, and overall, that's gonna overall pump up your DPS even higher and put you into more of a consideration for some of those larger items. We do rotate. We do a rotation of gear, and we try to keep people showing up regularly, getting them gear and stuff like that. But some of the larger items are there's a pecking order on them, for lack of
One
the first
one thing I want to clarify.
Okay.
Sorry
Yeah.
for that. So let's say there's a person helping consumes and stuff, and all the, let's say he did a lot of things, and versus another person, he did instead of popping consumes, he's probably getting the gear out of his own way, and the DPS comparison, right? That person who pop consume for some reason is doing lower DPS. How are you going to consider that situation?
Well, if it's all just going to be a bunch of hypotheticals, there's a million different scenarios that could go out. We're sort of trying to talk about logistics and stuff like that, not every single minute detail that could happen.
Yeah,
once
but
again,
that
it's
is
it's a formulaic thing that doesn't like. That's sort of hard. That's a sort of rough question. Like for a while there, we were wondering what was going on, and we're trying to figure out if it was the Winter's Chill build and stuff like that. But it came to figure out you had a minimal DPS set, and that was something that we didn't know quite existed yet. So stuff like that does get factored.
So somebody bringing like 150 gold in consumes and using it, but still not pulling high DPS because A, they're not geared, or they just don't know the rotation properly, still have a chance to get gear. That's what you're saying.
Everybody has an opportunity to get gear. This isn't a trickle down type of rating guild where we gear the first and top priority people the most. As most of y'all can see by the amount of epics that everybody's equipped, you know, everybody gets a chance at loot. There are certain exceptions to that. Weapons, trinkets, and some of the larger items do get prio to the people who are going to utilize them the most. It's just the fact of the matter. But no, just because you're the lowest man on the totem pole for healing or DPS or stuff like that does not actually negate your overall chance. Well, some of it, but not the overall chance for you to receive upgrade.
When you say totem pole, could you like expand on that?
Totem pole?
Yeah.
Or
is it just like a metaphor? You're just using it?
I think you just meant DPS.
A totem pole meaning top down, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, old totem poles back in Indian culture had different heads and symbols stacked on top of them. The highest going.
But
Okay.
at the same time, it's not just that. Like, we're not gonna, somebody who joined the guild 3 weeks ago and has only been with us for 2 raids, let's say it's a Fury Warrior, and let's say tonight in BWL 5 pieces of Fury shit drop, you know, everybody gets a good upgrade. If that upgrade coming to the new guy or somebody that's been with us for, you know, since, I don't know how long will we, most of us been here, September, it's probably going to go to the long-time raiders. It's not going to go to that new guy that just joined in or who's underperforming.
So
well,
to
also-
elaborate
TT cut out.
off of that, a few, you know, that are in the guild, like, I know there's different, you know, set bonuses that are different for each class. So let's just say if there's a few raiders that are, you know, using a set and they need a few pieces out of a BWO, maybe a certain piece off of a boss, the new raider isn't going to get prio on that piece that person needs, right?
I mean, if you're talking about your shoulders, and sounds like what you're talking
No,
about,
just
I think we've addressed that.
No,
Just in
we're.
general.
I mean, if someone needs it over a new person, of course it's gonna go to someone who's been here.
Well, of course, and then that's that's how it should be. I'm thinking more along the lines of, so you got person A and person B. Person A has got maybe some better gear than person B, but both people are putting equal amounts of effort into preparing, doing the rotations right, making sure they decurs and all that. I mean, I don't want to sound like an asshole because I'm sure you are taking that into account, but that is being taken into account. Because I mean, sometimes you can only do so much with what you have, and your performance may not be like pristine because of it.
There's a lot of real cool statistics that exist under Warcraft logs. One of the things that is taken into consideration, I don't know how familiar a lot of y'all are with these, but myself and a few others in this call right now actually dig into that to figure out why certain fights go wrong or why certain things look the way they do and stuff like that. And there's a really interesting statistic or on there that's called the cast per minute. So you can actually see the total amount of casts per minute for frost mages. It's pretty simple. You get 23 or so casts per minute of a frostbolt per minute, and things like that are taken into consideration. Uptime is another one, so it doesn't necessarily equate to just he slapped harder during this fight. It's also that he's pressing all the buttons that he's supposed to. That's taken into consideration.
Okay, so it's kind of, there is something that like normalizes it, so we can have like
Yeah,
compare
yeah.
between you.
And when you look at the logs, there's also there's a thing that's considered, and it's based off of averages from other people wearing similar gear and stuff like that. But it gives you a statistic that says percent of eye level DPS, I think is what it's called. So it factors in. So say one person's wearing phase best in slot, and the other person's wearing pre-bis. It will actually sit there and calculate saying this person did 97% of his total damage available to him. Now, obviously, that's a good number, right? He's pressing his buttons is the way that he's supposed to be pushing his buttons. Where if you see somebody in full raid bis and it's saying they're doing 72% or 65% of their total percentage, they're just sort of not really living up to the gear that they're doing.
That's actually really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of real cool statistics on there. You can even get down there and see like how and when and what's going on. It basically it's putting numbers and timestamps on the entire boss fight for all 40 people.
Well, it kind of erases the fear of, it's like, oh, I haven't gotten much epic gear lately, and am I going to be kicked out or something? It kind of gets rid of that fear, so that's all.
Yeah. Anybody have any other questions surrounding that sort of issue?
Yeah, so this also is like kind of curious. Do you guys like keep track of like who comes to raid like with like as many world buffs as possible, or do you guys just is it just like a soft requirement where like it's recommended but not like monitored or used in determination for loot?
World buffs are encouraged; they're not required, but pretty much every class is greatly improved by world buffs, so it's pretty easy to notice who doesn't and who does from raid to raid.
What sources point out is
Until you die on the first trash pull.
That's right.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's like I wasn't sure if it was used. So essentially, if what I'm hearing Offense correctly, he's saying that if I have world buffs, I'll perform better. So it'll be noticed that I'm pulling or doing more to contribution. But if I get world buffs, like I spend like hours like in DM or something, well, not hours, but maybe I went to go get like the Dire Maul buff and I got the Darkmoon Fair buffs, and then we go into BWL and I die like the first pull. Like it could still be shown in the logs that he had buffs going into the first encounter, and I don't know. I just wasn't sure if you guys use that or if it was just sucks to suck that week. Just wasn't sure.
A lot of our decisions aren't made off of week to week looking at things. It's more of a pattern, more of a pecking order type of thing. You can tell based off of multiple different things where people stand within their performance based off of either DPS, healing per second, threat, whatever the determining factors are, and you can actually average them out over a period of time. So it's something that's not necessarily an effect like, say, you do go get full world buffs and die off of a weird lava surge or whatever the case may be. It isn't necessarily going to hinder your overall visibility to the Loot Council.
So I think it was already pretty much explained, but as someone who's like not a raider, you're basically, you know, if no one else needs it, then you get considered. Is that right?
I mean, yeah, that and like how, like the item. Let's say you, TT, and Ace. It's an item that's a mine. They hit minor upgrade, and for you, it's a huge upgrade. We take a look at it. Depending on how much of a minor upgrade it is for them, we might consider you over them, just because if they're hitting minor upgrade on, they should be hitting need if they really want it and want to use it. And that's another issue we have. I kind of want to get into is people choosing main spec needs, greeds, minor upgrades. We get a lot of goofy shit every single raid from people that have been with us for a long time. Stuff that you guys don't see people roll on stuff that we look at. It makes no sense. That sometimes we have to sit there and go and look at their gear to see like why they're making the choice that they're making, and we'll see like, oh well, I don't know why they're hitting off-spec greed on this when it's a very obvious upgrade. We can't tell if like people think they're saving rolls or something, and all it does is make our jobs harder because then we have to fish through all the merc to figure out what they actually want to do with this item.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to put it on, press need. Period.
With the whole saving rolls things, a lot of people used to be afraid of that. I don't think it's much of an issue anymore, but a lot of people were like, oh shit, I got one piece. What if the big thing I want drops and I need it? I'm definitely not going to be considered for it. Like I said, I don't think it's an issue anymore, but I know for a while a lot of people were scared to death of it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I can tell you straight up, like before, yes, I do. That's how, like previously.
A lot of the big items that people are afraid to lose their prio on are items that have no consideration whatsoever with loot rotation. For main example, it's like weapons and trinkets. For the most part, the Loot Council has a conversation on a periodic to semi-frequent basis, depending on different drops that occur, where the next such and such item is going to fall into. And if that person, say, received a piece of tier gear or a minor upgrade or something like that the fight before, it will not overall impact his position for that item, if that makes sense.
So don't be afraid to need something if you've already won.
Exactly, and Knight's linking a few of the items that we have actually decided who the next person's going to get, or at least a very strong possibility. If the person doesn't show up or whatever the case may be, it's up for interpretation. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, all right, offense, the next fucking bow that drops is yours or something like that. But we have a decent idea about some of these items, and overall, it's not going to impact you by winning another item previously in that raid for your spot at that.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
All right. Sorry, part of it because I didn't know if I could be heard or not. About knowing, so maybe sometimes I think some issue people might have is they don't know that they're not performing to whatever degree, right? Or that so you all think, oh, they're not doing something, but they don't know that, right? So how would you approach that situation? Are the officers willing to have those conversations?
Oh, of course.
Or even bring those things up to people.
Yeah.
Are they bringing those things up to people? Right? Like if I'm not hearing anything, does that mean that you get what I'm saying?
One of my biggest issues with a lot of the raiders and stuff too is that I wish they would just come directly to us. If there's an issue of loot, an issue of why is A being considered over B, blah 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 blah. We find out almost everything through the grapevine. Honestly, guys, if it goes to an officer, it's probably getting back to us. Just a heads up. So it's better off just come directly to us. We'll talk to you. We've all been playing together for 6-7 months now. And no one, like just even right now, no one's gonna get their head ripped off. We'd rather sit down and
talk about it and explain it any day over, having it get beat around the bush.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, and it's perfectly acceptable to go and talk tonight and stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of those issues are redirected to the 3 people who are on the loot council. It's me, Grenita, Max, and Offense. And if y'all have any questions or concerns about it, please don't feel afraid to come and talk to us about it. It won't give you a lesser consideration for items. We won't look at you differently. We are humans, so mistakes do get made. Like, we've made mistakes before. It's happened. But having conversations with fellow raiders and stuff like that accomplishes nothing more than like schoolyard gossip and just airing of grievances. There's no solution that can come about that. So whispering a fellow mage, a fellow warrior, or somebody who you feel comfortable with, like that might be good and all for just so you feel the need to talk, but all it does is accomplish just that. It doesn't actually have much solution behind it. So if you do have a serious consideration or a comment or concern or complaint, or you think we had an oversight, please feel free to come up and chat with us. We love talking about gear. It's how we got into the position that we are now. I spend hours and hours looking at loot tables like the ZG. It took me 5 or 6 hours in an Excel program typing all this stuff out. It gets even more intensive when it comes to BWL, where every single item in there, for the most part, actually has a use. So come and chat with us. We're just humans. We're just people. We like pressing our buttons and killing things the same way y'all do. There's not much difference in between us. So I just hope y'all can hear that and understand that we're here and ready to talk whenever y'all have any questions.
Oh.
What items?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that will be addressed. The first and foremost thing that we wanted to accomplish for the overall good of the raid was, or in guild for that matter, was to get some of the profession crafting out of the way so everybody could have, for example, their Bloodvine sets. I couldn't tell you how many Bloodvine chess pieces I've made. Yeah, and yeah, so I don't take any of the rep items. They're all sent off to the people who win the roles and do stuff like that. It was an oversight in looting based off of that we thought the enchanting thing was going to come with phase 4, and once it came out we realized that it didn't. And
Which was bullshit, by the way.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm quite upset that I don't have my 30-something spell power and 1% crit, because I was sitting on a ton of large brilliant shards for that. But outside of that grievance, there isn't much more rep crafters in the guild that need rep for guild items, and there was very few in the first place to begin with. We needed some a tailor, we wanted an enchanter, but that fell through. Alchemy, and then also some of the leatherworking stuff replaces Priebus, and some filler items for flexing hidden stuff around. For the most part, all of those needs are being fulfilled, and it's something that we can address amongst the loot council. If we want to open up the remainder of the raid to open roll on the stuff, it's perfectly fine. For case and example, the last time we went into a ZG, there was a question about loot. In a very democratic process, I asked if anybody had any problems changing it. Nobody did, and we just adjusted it. So things that seem very tightly wound are parameters. The reason the parameters were there was they did indeed serve a legitimate purpose. Once those purposes are fulfilled, then so does the parameters have to go off. The primal Hikari idols, for example, the enchant pieces. Since there is a limited number of them, the gear longevity is done in a certain way. There's also a ZG reset every 3 days. And if you feel the need to want to roll on an item that isn't prior to you in a guild run, there's 2 more resets a week that you can find an open role and try to get that as well. We're not saving you to these lockouts. You aren't indebted to us to run these ways, but that's just sort of
The thing is with the guild though is like people want to run with each other in the guild, but like when we're doing it with the guild, we're waiting for like officers to create the party or whatever. So it kind of like is the guild run with these parameters, but like we just want to raid with each other. You know what I mean? But like you guys have the power to create the party and get everything going. So that's why it's still like, you say like, yeah, go ahead and go do the pug whenever you want, but this is how it is with the guild, but like it's like we still want to raid with each other though.
Granita, sorry, but I think a good way, or just a suggestion with CG, I think what we can do, okay, but of course up to your consideration, is how there are 3 resets or 2 resets probably per week. Like do one with an open rule and do one with loot prio and stuff like that. I think that's a fair thing, right?
What I'm trying to say.
The only
though,
guild sanctioned ZG is actually the ones that we do on Saturday. I have working with Knight and a couple other people. We've gotten in a groove where we want all the same people to sort of just not want, but it just sort of worked out the way that we all just sort of run the same resets because it makes it easier and all the pieces get spread out instead of going to pugs and stuff like that. There's tons and tons of 60s in this guild, and if anybody cares to make an extra ZG team and have it open role, y'all have more than power than enough to do that. Yesterday when the first raid filled up, a second one ran. I don't know their loot system. They killed a car. Those things that you're looking for do exist, and guildies do run together even outside of the strict regimented description of the loot council, the loot prio sheet. That those opportunities do exist for you.
What I'm saying is like you don't want to scare the guildies off like doing pugs and shit like that with having like such like very specific restrictions. Like what I'm trying to say is like it's like there's some items that make sense. You know what I mean? Like for like certain things and stuff like that. But like then like say for example you're doing the same exact loot list for like a AQ when it comes out. Like it would save you time and it would like not scare away guildies as much if you just like like made it easier for yourself and easier for everybody.
Am I dying right now?
Bro.
Yeah, it sounds
You're
like
roboting. You're roboting.
Did we enter the Matrix?
It has
Yep.
started, guys.
Sorry, that must have me been
Can I
joining
just
and
ask,
messing everything up.
what is there loot in ZG that people can't get?
From the most part, the grievances,
but like,
yeah,
you know,
for the most part,
I
it
guess
sounds
I don't
like
have a problem with.
the majority of the complaints I get is from rep items and the actual enchants. And if that's what it is, then that's what it is. It's rep that we're always going to be able to get. We get 3K per run, damn near, and then the enchants are gonna be there. They're gonna trickle down, but giving somebody who has their Prebis helm an enchant versus somebody who has their best in game enchant just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I'm sorry if that seems restrictive, but that's just sort of the path that we came.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. Like I get that, but that's not what I'm saying. But restricting it to specific classes, like last ZG we did, when like Knight has his Bis head, but you're like Knight, you can't roll on that. Like why the fuck not, bro? Like what the fuck?
Why doesn't Knight just go join the second raid and then he can roll on it? We didn't twist his arm to come with us.
Well, here's a question.
But that's what I'm
What
trying
about-
to like. That's what I'm trying to steer away from. That's literally what
I
I'm
mean,
trying to
other than
steer
the
away
fact
from.
that I created the
The
event,
Warlock won't
but
even work with that.
let's not
one question.
drag me into that. The Bis head and the Bis leg enchant. I mean, I understand the way that Granita did it. Did I think it was too strict? Yes, but do I understand the reasoning behind it? Absolutely. Does it suck? Does it suck for Warlocks? Yes, but does it benefit the other members in the raid team? Yes. So
Okay, so let me throw something.
Hold on one second, Arch. In that scenario, and this is what a lot of people have have to understand, and the considerations that we take into making these loot prio lists, is that we have, if for ZG, for example, 20, and for Molten Core, for example, and BWL, we have 40 people that we have to take in consideration, all of varying use and degrees of these certain items. And in the limited quantities that we have them, we have to have an idea that where they make the most sense to go, because there is a limited number of them. And a lot of the considerations for items can be, for example, there's a lot of items out there that tanks would sit there and say they see that 51 healing mace drop and they say, you know what, I have a legitimate use for that. I have Diamond Flask. I'm about to pop my Diamond Flask before Veil. I want to have an extra 106 healing. Well, whatever it was before, this isn't just for, you know, argument's sake. There's a legitimate concern. There's a legitimate need that a warrior would have for healing gear. Does it make sense to prio or to allow warriors to roll on items that way? No, it doesn't. We're going to put it onto the people who make the most use of it, and that's just the fact of the matter of it.
We're not talking about meme spec though. Come on, dude. We're not talking about meme spec. He's
Okay,
meme spec warlock.
What you're talking about is 10 stamina on an enchant. And for all intents and purposes, 10 stamina is a fucking meme spec.
Yeah, it's a pretty terrible enchant.
It's a 10
think
spell
that's
power
a-
upgrade and
It's
10
it's
stamina.
still.
I
I think that's an argument.
And Granita, I mean, one thing as well, right? Let's put like to build on top of what people are saying. Let's say the hit offhand drops from the priestess. You guys are saying it's warlock prio.
Yeah, it is warlock.
Yes, but why? Because there's hit.
It's prio because if you look at the BWL prio list, that mages are prio the staff, the Shadow Flames, and with a staff you don't need an offhand. Warlocks are prio the Claw of Chromagus, and to throw in their offhand they need to hit. It's best on them. Yeah, mages can receive their hit cap without that offhand.
Back to the enchant. So I think you just made DJ's point stronger. Like, it is just 10 spell power. How much does it impact the overall raid performance if Delak gets it instead of a mage? Like, that's not going to cause us to wipe on a raid boss. Like,
I mean, if we put things into consideration, saying, well, they're not going to cause us to wipe, then the majority of the decision we make in the guild can be null and void by that. That's
All I'm saying is that I just
if
feel
the
like it's way too restricted. That's what I feel like, because you're like, it's just the people are getting angry, and like it's like more than half the raid team. And it's like we don't need to make it so restricted. So everybody's like, you know, like right now you're kind of funneling it, like you're gearing all of us with the way that you have it set up. We don't have a choice in what we get, like, because you're telling us what we're getting like ahead of time. You know, we don't even know what we need. Should I need on this? No. Should I not do it? Am I allowed to? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's super restricted.
I feel kind of the same way, Granita.
With
So
Regine's
is
point,
every single piece of gear in MC and BWL, is that too restrictive as well, or should we just slash roll everything?
ZG was compared to UBRS when we first ran.
Yeah,
I hear what they're saying, because the point that Reg just made kind of boosts DJ's argument a lot, is that it's kind of it's too strict with everything that was just said. I mean, it makes kind of sense where they're coming from what I see. I mean, does that mean that we want less strict ZGs? Is that what's going to make the guild happy? Is this what we want to do?
I'm just confused because we are complaining about an optional guild event. Optional. Like, no one is forcing anybody to do this. You can, people that don't like it, just do another ZG, and it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. It's not like you're starting a whole nother raid team and doing BWL.
I think the point is that they don't want to do that. I think the point is they want to run with their guild members,
Okay,
and they
that's
want it to
fine.
be not.
Max, to be honest, that's not a very nice thing to say, to be honest, as a guild. Like,
Going back to my point earlier, I said this loot prio list has been out for a couple weeks before ZG even came out, and guess how many people came to us about these issues? Not a single person said a thing, and that's what half our issue is, that nobody talks to us until we wait till this moment to now discuss it when we're already 2-3 weeks into it, when it's honestly not going to matter here very soon.
all right, Max, calm down. First of all, well, when a loot list comes out, yes, I understand Discord and whatsoever is like the channel to go to see what's happening to. But I think it's also the officer's responsibility to make it well known to all raiders or members. And I couldn't. I really can't agree with how you're saying. Oh, if you don't like it, then basically saying screw you. Well, that's not how an officer should act. I'm sorry,
All right.
but
So
I'm gonna
the
speak here. I got this. So the reason that a warlock wasn't allowed to roll on an enchant over someone else is because we're trying to do the most good for the guild. And if it wants to be relaxed and you guys want to, lose stuff to less ideal things, we can do that in ZG. Whatever. We came from it from a standpoint trying to do the most good for the guild and for the individual players.
I mean, shit. I'm okay with it because the freaking mage voodoo doll is like 30 to 40. I can't do that all the time.
Look, I respect all the work that the council did for us, really, and I appreciate
in
it.
response to your previous statement about making sure that everybody knows, if you will scroll up and look at the ZG loot list, at everybody or at Raiders was put out on there, so it was made informed. We can't sit there and send it to every single individual person's email address or whisper every single person in game.
There's
Go
a
ahead,
common
Duchek.
theme where things like loot priority comes up and it's posted in guild Discord, and then 3 weeks later everyone's blindsided by it. And it's like I don't really know what to say about that, because like someone was saying how they don't know what they need or what they're getting or anything, and it's like weeks and weeks and weeks to prepare. This is like a 15-year-old game. Like the information was already given to the guild up for discussion like 3 weeks before it becomes an issue. And it's
Yeah,
dragged out.
our only complaint was about not being able to buy the fucking mounts off of each other, and that was changed almost immediately. So if you guys want to complain about stuff now, that's fine. But it has been out. It was out before ZG. It was late considering the time frames, but it was out.
Yo, legitimately, all I'm hearing right now is you guys fucked up. Like that.
No, DJ, that's not right.
All right, let's
look.
Hold on.
Problem.
So before
Let's
this
let
turns
TT.
into
Let TT talk.
before this turns into the whole guild yelling at each other, this has been the same story every single loot list that's been made in the history of this guild. Even with the BWL loot list, it was out for like 2.5 months in advance to BWL, which, it makes sense that there's going to be some issues that weren't brought up beforehand, but it is quite a common theme in this guild where things are posted ahead of time by a mile, and things that are easily answered on said sheets are asked and become an issue when it could have been handled beforehand. But I mean, it is what it is. You can't make everyone read, but proceed.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much is in Discord.
Well, to be fair, like Discord, I shouldn't be scrolling to find information. I feel like we should be locking the channels, the text channels that show.
Most important stuff is pinned.
Okay, so
We should have like a separate channel where there's just certain info in it, and then lock it to where nobody else can post but a few.
We can do that if that's what you guys want to do. That's an easy
Make it
fix.
a lot easier for some people to be able to access that information.
Yeah, I'm always going all through them.
And to further expand upon all of this is, if these are conversations that y'all, ultimately at the end of the day, if over half of the raiders are saying they have a discrepancy about the way a piece of loot is being decided in ZG, if y'all were in my raid on Saturday, not mine, whoever's it was on Thursday, we were running ZG and we opened it up to a democratic vote on if we would allow off-race warriors to have equal prio for the Warblades as hunters did. and nobody had a problem with that. If y'all are wanting to go in a raid and sit there and say, hey, I think we should just open roll all of the rep items and all of the enchants, we can just throw it to a vote, and if the majority takes it, the majority takes it. These are for fun
Also-
raids. These aren't necessarily like, this is, ZG is a filler one. There's like 5 items that anybody cares about in this whole place. 2 of those are mounts. One of them's a bag. You know what I'm saying?
And you know, to further elaborate on what he said, the ZG we did the other day, I do believe it was asked if we wanted, if everyone was okay with going off the loot list that was created, or if they wanted to open roll. No one was opposed to going off
I've
the
asked
loot
it
list.
every single time I've done a master. I was in charge of master looting one, just to do the general housekeeping, to make sure everybody's on the same page and to address all the problems before it exists on the roll. Because when something drops and somebody's rolling on it, is not the time to decide whether or not that person gets it or not. You need to decide ahead of time. We agree on the rules. We go in there and we do it.
And also, I think one
So
thing
loot
to
isn't decided when it drops.
By slash rolls, it in essence it is, but parameters do exist beforehand. Before we walk into a raid, that's why I've always, when I've been master looting or in charge of putting together a ZG team, I've always spent like 2 or 3 minutes asking everybody, hey, do y'all want to do an open roll? Do y'all want to do it off the loot prio list? Do y'all what do y'all want to do? And I tell everybody about the rep items beforehand. I tell everybody about the Hikari idols. This previous week, I had a message saying, hey, can we talk about this? I brought it up over chat. Warblades decided to go to it, and Fry got his main hands. You know, that's the way these things work. Just have a conversation with us when these raids start, and we can address these issues rather than having these hot-blooded conversations about how people are upset over enchants. Just have the conversation with us up front. We can address it over Discord and say, hey, who doesn't like this? Let's not do it this way. Okay, that's cool. Then we don't have to do it that way. We don't have to get upset with people. We don't have to feel restrictive. We don't have to have people feel like they can't raid with us because they can't get certain items. When in fact, we have an open line of conversation, and we'd love to see the narrative change if it existed.
Also, if we were to like get rid of the prior list completely, like the one and only Zul'Gurub that I was in, like the best tanking helmet for druids dropped, but it's also really good for the rogues that were new in our.
I think we had like 4 of those helmets drop
Exactly.
So
So I mean, if
they're
we
not
were to
rare
have
items.
open roll, it benefits people like me because I can essentially get more loot because I already have my main.
So, are you saying you want to take take something on a greed roll from someone that's upgrade, or?
No, but if we were to get like rid of if we were to say, oh, Zul'Gurub, we don't care.
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
If
sorry, I
you
was-
guys want to have lax CG runs, I will run them. And for the people that need the gear and want to have a stricter thing, so you know maybe you're prioritized for an item and you don't feel like rolling off MS/OS, we'll have greeting. And if you are just going in there for the rep gain and the enchants and you want to herb and you know you want to kill everything and you guys want to have fun, joke around, smoke some weed, drink some alcohol, we can come on to Friendly Neighborhood Night Run. But like the meaning for this meeting was to address Loot Council in a whole, not for just ZG. And I feel like we've been focusing a lot on ZG for a while. And I think we need to kind of go back to like the actual raids that matter with your concerns on BWL and MC. Because ZG is a catch-up mechanic, and in about another phase or two, ZG is not even going to be a thing you guys are worried about anymore. So, if you guys have complaints about MC and BWL, by all means, this is your time to do it.
So
But
go
ahead, DJ.
You guys say you watch attendance, so I work 2 Fridays a month when we are raiding, so I can only make 2 Fridays, but when I'm here, I'm putting forth like the maximum effort. Does this mean in the future that I'll be shafted on gear because of my work schedule, even though that I'm putting forth the maximum effort on what I'm doing?
No, not necessarily. When in consideration with attendance, a lot of the things that we look at is if somebody has missed a month and then they come in and need on an item, say somebody got an item whatever the thing may be, say a weapon or something, and they got that item, and then they took 3 weeks off for whatever real life happens, because real life does happen, and then they come back a month later and the other people in their positions have received items. That doesn't necessarily guarantee you for the next rotation or the next big item. Just because other people had been here for those 3 weeks and got an items doesn't negate that. That's sort of one of the attendance things. Obviously, like no call, no showing and stuff like that is something that we dislike and will be affected on it. But if you give us consideration and say, hey, you know, such and such came up, or I have a family wedding, or whatever it is. Obviously, the coronavirus times right now is a little bit different with a lot of the people's attendance, but for the fact of the matter is, like, real life happens, and if some emergency comes up or something like that, then we take that into consideration, and it's fine as long as we know about it. But it doesn't automatically bump you up. It doesn't mean you can come and raid one day a month, and since it's your turn in rotation to come back into raid and expect to get an item just because, hey, they've gotten this, this, and this, I've been gone for 3 weeks.
So in summary, it doesn't benefit you, but it also doesn't harm you.
Correct. You can't just sit out raids and expect to get put back right into rotation the second you come back.
Well, okay. And also make a suggestion in terms of the of you guys making the loot list. First of all, I appreciate the effort, the prior list. Just now, I think a point being brought up is we haven't really reflected for the past 1 to 2 weeks. But you know, in order for problems to actually surface, we can't anticipate everything. Like we're looking at this, oh, it seems fine. But when we really work, let's say, when we really start using it, then problems may surface. So I think setting a reasonable time frame for feedback is also important going forward. You see,
We always welcome feedback, Arch. That's not what we're saying. We're not trying to say, like, but to have somebody sit there and say that they haven't even taken a look at the loot prior list until they stepped into to ZG or onto their boss and realized that they weren't allowed to roll on their item at that given time isn't necessarily the time frame to do that.
Want my enchant, you fuck.
I know you do.
So, Granita, Offense, and Max, you guys are telling me or not telling me that my work schedule will fuck with my gear?
It will not directly benefit nor negate your chances of getting gear. The
What does that mean?
idea that so in an example, if somebody raids and has an item drop for them, and then they have a real life issue that they have to take care of for a month and come back, they will not be automatically considered next in rotation because they haven't gotten a gear for a month. If you go into RC loot history, when people vote and need on items, you can sit there and see when the last, oh, you know this, you can see when the last time somebody got a piece of loot is. And so what happens is, it'll say, you know, Priest 1, Priest 2, Priest 3 all received this in the last 2 weeks, and then here you are, Priest 4, and not in a chronological or any sort of like ranking system, but just for the case of example. Priest 4 hasn't received a piece of loot in a month. Well, he hasn't been here in a month. Of course he hasn't got a piece of loot in a month. That doesn't automatically guarantee him the next piece of loot in rotation because he hasn't been here. But it also doesn't take you out of consideration for it either.
Okay, so building on to that, so that means if a raider is scheduled, let's say, to raid every 2 weeks, or let's say only 2 times a month, his chance of getting the loot is relatively lower.
Yeah,
There's
well,
that.
yeah. If we really want to build up people that are going to be, and longevity is something that's in effect. If somebody is only able to make 2 raid days a month, then he's obviously not going to get the same consideration as somebody who's there 8 of the raid weeks a month, 8 of the raid nights a month, if that makes sense. If somebody has one of those, like, I can raid when I'm here type of things and pick up 1 or 2 raids a month, then he's not going to have an equal prio to the core raiders.
So does that mean me? Like, because I won't be here 2 Fridays
No,
of the
you
month?
miss. Yeah, I mean that's 2 out of 8. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm talking about. Of like, if I can get on and raid, I can get on a raid. Like that doesn't negate your core raider stat. I'm talking particularly in people who, like, Okay, well, you know, if I'm on a Friday night and you need an extra hunter, then yeah, sure, invite me. Like, they're not going to get the same consideration as a core raider who's been raiding with us for months.
Sorry,
I have a question. Okay,
Yeah.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead, Arch.
Oh, I just want to know, core raider. Do you guys have a list of how many people we
I
have
know you're
as
going to
core
hate me for
raiders?
saying this, but it's in Discord.
Yeah, it hasn't been updated though. We're still at something we're working
Yeah.
on actually.
So
we have
my question.
37.
So my question is, with approaching a always full raid sign up, how are we going to decide who comes as a core raider and who are we going to decide that inevitably is going to have to be benched because of the fact that we can't bring literally everyone who wants to come to MC or BWL because we have so many members?
The way that it's opened up right now is that after raid and up till Tuesday evening, the channel for raid team sign up is locked to the only people who can see it are people who have been given the tag core raider or class lead or officer or anything above core raider. And so the idea is that we're giving the people who have been raiding with us for multiple of months. Most people, not most, over half of these people have been raiding. Half of our raiders have been raiding with us for over 6 months. And so we give them the first dibs at signing up, and then after Tuesday, what's happened is the remainder of the people are able to fill up, and we are given consideration to overall raid composition and things like that to who we bring in that.
I have a
I have a
Zorsh,
question.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Did he answer your question? I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, no, he answered my question. I just wanted to know how we were gonna decide who raid core member and how we're gonna decide who gets a spot on the schedule, because I know a lot of people sign up. They unfortunately, you know, there's some people that sign up 41, 42, 43, which means that obviously you can't fit that many people in if everyone shows up. So
Can I just piggyback off of that real quick?
sure.
Go.
So, like yesterday in the ZG, I felt bad for being there knowing that Huggin was online and could have used the gear. Because all I need is a neck piece out of there from what I'm gathering. So, are we going to prioritize like people who can actually use more out of the raid? Or how? I know it's like a first come, first serve, but I kind of feel like if you have to choose between me, who is super geared, then that doesn't really need that much over a guildie that could use like 5 or 6 pieces of catch-up gear.
Yeah, we already try and take that into account.
I'm pretty sure on a weekend when we're doing the weekend raid, so like tomorrow, we try to split up the groups evenly. So you have some people are geared and some people who isn't. So that way you can distribute loot and also help carry those people through the raid, so you're not stuck on certain bosses. If you get what I mean, Bizop. I don't know about during the weekdays because I'm not here.
So we'll split it up between, you know, an even number of hunters so they can roll on their weapons, or if the case may be where, and we do the same thing with Ani splits if we have, most recent example, if we have priests that still need their tier 2 helmets, we split them in between raids. I forget who the other priest was at the time, but we had 2 priests who needed tier 2 helmets, so we made sure they were in separate raids. But no, not every single ZG lockout. The ones on Saturday nights that we do as the guild sanctioned event, yes, but the other ones throughout the week, the idea of taking people first who need the most gear isn't something that is necessarily considered.
So there is no
You cut out at the end there, Kish.
so there's no mechanic say in place for me to say I will jump in if you need people to like fill the spot, but I am putting myself out of the running if there are people who actually need the gear.
Oh no, you're more than welcome to say that if you'd care to. The binge signups or stuff like that. I try to give first come first serve to the people who were at the previous one and discuss it because I'd like to get in the habit of forming a raid and clearing it every 3 days. And if you decide that you no longer want to do that, or if somebody else is like, hey, I'd like to go, and you have all the stuff that you want, then you're more than welcome to sit out. I'm not gonna bench people based off of gear consideration though.
So I'm strictly bringing this up. Sorry, DJ. I'm bringing this up because I've heard it as a complaint from people who are not in our core raid group. ZG is kind of like really their only opportunity to raid, and yes, they can raid with other groups, but they want to raid with the guild they're in too.
Yeah, no doubt, and we bring those people along. There was quite a few in the last run that wouldn't necessarily be considered core raiders who ended up in raiding with.
But how would the loot be prioritized there? Because if you're going to prioritize people over the same standard.
The loot wouldn't be prioritized to core raiders if they're in the raid and they have they fit the parameters for it. They all get the slash roll on it just as
Yeah, this is not
if a
cool.
fresh mage rolled off of the Cloak of Hakar and won it over me or any of the other mages in there. The roll's respected. It's not prioritized to core raiders over non. Just the spots, not even the spots really. It's just whoever's been raiding with it, the ZG. And I want to emphasize again, these are all separate entities. The ZG raid isn't that I put on and have for the last like 3 or 4 lockouts isn't like a guild sanctioned one. It's just a bunch of guildies that get together and get on every 3 nights and kill Hakar.
TLDR, the weekend ZGs is for getting shit done. Weekdays for catching people up.
We've had a few fresh 60 rogues come in. Thorn and his wife came in, got some loot. There's a bunch of people that haven't been raiding for the last 6-8 months that have been coming in and getting cycled in with gear. I think out of all of them, the only things that we've really been destroying are extras and multiples of the token turn-ins. For the most part, I think we've only DE'd like maybe 3 or 4 pieces of loot. They always find a home.
I have a question, and it may be obvious, but buying loot after it's distributed, is that a no-go? Like if someone wins something cool and I want to buy it from them and they're willing to?
The only parameters that we've got set right now is if you roll and win a mount, you are eligible to sell it, but you forfeit your rights to roll on that ever again.
I gotcha, but like regular pieces of gear, like in Blackwing Lair?
Any
no
MC
raid
and
gear
back, yeah,
is
no
allowed
MC or BWL gear.
Even if you keep it kind of thing?
If you're given a piece of loot, it's for you. If somebody's whispering you to buy it, please get in touch with one of the loot council officers because we do not condone that.
I have a question about that mount.
Okay.
So, let's say someone rolls
Why
on
the
it
fuck
and they
are
sell
you
it.
so loud? I'm gonna spare
Is it really?
everyone. Yeah. I'm gonna spare
Okay, how
everyone.
about now? How about now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let's say I roll, I get the mount, and Buddy wants the mount really bad. So I sell it to him. Now, what if the mount drops again? Is he allowed to roll it to sell it to me? Even though he bought it off me, does he lose his roll as well?
You have it. I don't think you can roll it.
Yeah, why you wouldn't roll on it because you have
Yeah,
it.
true. Okay.
Yeah, they're unique. You couldn't even do that.
All right, so I want to ask the question I tried to ask a few minutes ago. Pretty much, I kind of heard earlier at the beginning of this call, you said that like certain like big items like CTS, DFT, maybe even like NEF-AX or anything, you guys kind of like have an idea who you're going to give it to, but you guys said you guys don't like announce to the person or to anyone like who it's going to go to. You guys keep it amongst the loot council, I'm guessing, in case that person doesn't show up or something on ad hoc changes. Is that like the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So is there like ever a medium where you guys will discuss like a big drop with the person beforehand, or is it always just going to be a on the call thing?
What it does is it really builds up, and it's something we can address later. We've had discussions about making a list and stuff like that, but what it does is it seems, in my experience, to build up people's expectations of what they're going to receive or what they are expecting to receive out of raid. And when certain things like that happen, expectations are a perfect opportunity and example for people to start getting upset and angry. So say somebody's proud on a CTS, for example, we haven't seen any of them. Where this other person was proud on, you know, a DFT, and then maybe he had second or third pry on something else, and here this person is getting all this other stuff. It really puts it into a, like, it's a random drop chance. And we don't have the answers for what's going to drop, but we have an idea of if it drops, who it's going to.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, if you ever went about telling people if they were prioed on big items like that, and they were prioed on an item that was a low drop rate, I kind of feel like they shouldn't feel, you know, cheated or angry.
They shouldn't. Yeah,
exactly.
You're correct.
Since,
They
since
shouldn't.
they're getting prioed on
That's
such
the
an
word.
item.
They shouldn't, but that doesn't mean they can't be, or that doesn't mean that they aren't going to be. It just means that they shouldn't be, which doesn't do anything.
Situations constantly change too. So let's say a hypothetical, like obviously Dujek has Thunder Fury. Let's say, you know, he's up next for like CTS. Obviously, would probably definitely not going to be ever the first like few to get CTS. Hypothetical, and then let's say you know, DT is like, you know, second like consideration for it, and let's say that same raid, we're looking at things. Let's say Dujek gets let's say it doesn't drop for 2 weeks. We get 2 DFTs in between there, and one of the DFTs goes to Dujek in between. Let's say he gets the second one because we weren't expecting the second one. Then obviously we're probably gonna prio TT, who is second priority for the CTS, over him, just because of the huge item he got the week before too. So it's like, you know, depending on what loot we see and how it drops, like things do change. Is essentially what I'm getting at. Nothing is ever truly set in stone.
So, but like in that philosophy, like, do you guys take into account like the possibility? Let's say like TT really wants a CTS, right? But like what happens is it, let's say he wants it like so much more than a DFT, but let's say a DFT does drop, and you know you guys are loot council and you guys don't tell people directly like, you know, this is like what you're gonna get. So you guys chose to give it to TT because, you know, it's been a while since you got a drop. So TT gets the DFT, and now when a CTS drops, you know, he can't get what he wanted, even though he got a good item. It's just that it wasn't exactly the item he wanted, and it's kind of like
that's every single week though. I mean, every single week items drop that aren't necessarily in accordance to what they want, but it doesn't. It's just sort of the way drops go, my man. Like there's people are asking for clear cut like definitions of it, but there's a whole random possibility of all this stuff happening. We don't have the ability to guarantee, all right, well, here's the if it was the case, here's the next 20 items that are going to drop, here are the next 20 people who are going to get them, that would be absolutely fantastic. But if we were to make a list and say like TT is strongly wants his CTS over the DFT, well, what happens when 5 DFTs drop and then 2 gets a bit to get it? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's weird.
But let's say if like we just gave, I'm just wondering, like, is it possible to like before you give the drop to the person, just ask like, you know, we're going to give you DFT. Is this what you're okay with? Allowing the other person to choose like, no, I don't want to. I would rather like wait for X item, and I get it.
See, I'm gonna stop you right there. There's that's where it kind of gets messy, because there has been wind, you know, of people doing that because they wanted stuff from BWO before, so they would intentionally pass on pieces of item, you know, thinking that would give them the other item, and that's just a very, very bad atmosphere for the guild, you know, trying to manipulate item drops and such so you can get what you want. Like, I see where you're coming from, but it just can't work.
It just breeds malcontent, and that's all it does. Is people expect and get their expectations up that if this is the next thing that drops, and I've been passing on all these rolls for so long, waiting for this to come up, and that item drops and they don't get it, then they're like, well, what? And it's just not. It just, if an item is an upgrade for you, and you're gonna equip it, you hit the need button, and then you get items. That's the best way that I can describe this process.
There's two ways that can go bad. It can go bad in the way that Grenita just said it, or they could end up getting the item they want, and then the rest of the guild, starts to recognize, well, I can essentially strong arm my way to getting this certain piece, so that's what we're gonna do now.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with, I don't know, like, I look at it in two different ways as well, because like if that person's doing that, one, they know that that's what they're choosing to do, and that means that the other rogues that are behind X rogue are also getting DFTs. So, but I understand your guys' point. Like, it's definitely like there are consequences that can come from it. I just felt that like to a degree, like if that situation were to occur, like I don't know, like especially like I can see that being like, because this happened to me before in like my other raid guild before, where I got something where I didn't actually exactly want it, but it was a big item, and I understood that me getting that meant that I couldn't get like an onslaught girdle and something. So it's just like I understand, but it's not like a big deal. I was just wondering if you guys had like a backup plan to that or something, but I see.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Oh boy. No, nothing.
I think that's pretty clear.
So just to clear up again, who Loot Council and officers are, you guys are aware certain people are certain things, and we don't really get involved with Loot Council stuff here on the officers, right?
Wrong pillar.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate for everything that the Loot Council has done so far. That's really, I know it's a lot of work, and really appreciate, and also taking the time to host this panel. I think it's very useful. It also gives us a better understanding of how our Loot Council works. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Seriously though, I'd rather just air anything else out that people have, any ideas or anything like that about Loot Council or any questions. I know we've been going on a little over an hour now, so we've touched quite a few topics, but if there's anything just sort of brewing in the back of your mind, like this is the time and area to discuss.
You guys for everything you do.
Yeah, I have an issue with that offense guy. He's just like total dog shit. And
yeah, get in line,
I
man.
am the worst. You're not wrong.
Can we have like Guild Donut Day?
Oh, dude.
I have like one last question. Wasn't sure maybe like how the medium to do it, but let's just say like I'm pushing like PvP and like there's an upgrade. You guys told me to like press need if it's like a serious upgrade, but if I press need and I know I'm gonna be replacing like that piece possibly, you just want me to put a note saying that like, I mean this is an upgrade, but like because I'm getting like PvP gear, I don't want to get the.
There's this gray button that's called the minor upgrade button.
Keep in mind, Zords, getting to rank 14 is still going to be a couple of weeks for you.
Well, I meant like the martial gear, which is going to be like 3 weeks for me.
Well, then it'll be sort of like a situation where Uther is in, where he's not, he's obviously not hitting need on things because he knows he's going to get PvP pieces from it. So he's not, taking
and that's
from anybody else.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's what I meant. Like, I guess in that case, like I would just not put need if I expect like a few like weeks.
If you've got your martial gear coming here in the next few weeks, then definitely if it's an upgrade for you now, but you'll replace it, and that's another thing that we try to accomplish with the Guild Loot Council is just longevity of gear. Who's going to be using it the longest type of thing, and so if you're going to replace things with martial gear that you're not going to replace until next, then obviously pass it along to the next person.
For sure.
Martial gear. That sounds so far away.
I don't want anything to do with martial gear.
Dude, you could have though. You were like a fucking commander, like literally 3 months ago.
Doesn't the rank 14 gear like just completely blow balls for mages though?
Oh, it gets replaced.
Yeah. You mean the weapon that gets replaced?
Oh, the weapon doesn't get replaced, but everything else does.
Wait, really? The weapon? I thought the staff is better from Nefari.
No, the weapon has the same amount of spell power or more, I think, than the weapon does. So the best in slot would be the High Warlord's Mage Blade and the AV offhand. Or even,
Shit. Does that mean I need to go to 14? Fuck my life.
it's for an extra 30 spell power, by the way. So if you want to devote 2 months for 30 spell power, knock yourself out. I've been called a sweaty min-maxer, but I'm not that sweaty.
I'm not a I'm not a min-maxer, but now that it seems to benefit the raid, so and I'm already up here.
I mean, well, you see, but there's different categories to that, because yes, it will benefit raid, but if it's gonna like completely burn out someone, then it's not worth it. Like there's guilds out there like Apes, where at the start of Classic they all split up on different servers. Like I'm pretty sure every single one of their warriors hit rank 14, and they have like 15 plus warriors. Like that's a different kind of sweaty.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
That's like another level.
Yeah.
Okay, that's somewhere I'm never gonna be. Fuck my life.
Yeah. Knight, you still in here?
I have one suggestion. The loot spreadsheets, I think you should upload those to Google Docs and share those links. I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of people have
It comes
Excel.
box in that form. It does not like
An XLSX spreadsheet? That's a Microsoft.
That's how it's downloaded.
I know, I'm just saying I think we should do that to share
If
with
we
people.
share it, then we have to get everyone's emails and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, that's not worth it. But I mean, one thing you guys can do, I think, use the guild message tab more often. The guild message of the day. So let's say if you have a new, for example, loot item or whatever has been updated. Because I don't know about others, but I look at that more than Discord, as you probably know.
How many people know that we're doing BWL before MC today?
You?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, I should have asked how many people don't, because that's the people who don't read the guild message today, and I know at least 2 people of the last 3 people I've talked to who didn't know that. So I don't think the guild message today is quite as informative for everyone. But
Oh,
maybe
I
both,
actually read
guess.
that.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, can we do both? I think that will work.
Snow, Fry, Herm, you guys are gonna have to move here pretty soon.
Wait, yeah.
I mean, we definitely try and update and inform as much as possible. I
Yeah,
try
I
to
appreciate
add
it.
everyone and try and guild message of the day, important stuff, and that I have been trying to utilize the guild message of the day more to communicate. Not
feel
everyone
like-
gets
Yeah,
one
thank
every
you.
day though, but
I feel like there needs to be a level of accountability though.
Yeah.
Like they can't like send you private emails about updates because I saw. The other thing is maybe leave it on like a new important change for like a week so everybody has a chance to see.
yeah. So the best format is to download it and then you guys can upload it to Google Docs. And yeah, it's an Excel file, but that's literally what Google downloads it for. So otherwise, you can get it in a PDF form, and it's
Can't you
not
just
very
put a
readable.
screenshot?
Yeah, but you can't really zoom in and look at stuff.
Also, as long as I still gotta get a hold of Knight here, as long as he still has his Heart of Hakar, I think the plan is to
Guys,
drop the
heads dropping, just so you know.
Oh wait, what? Oh my god.
to drop
think
ZG
so.
buff at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 server time. All you have to do is be in Stranglethorn Vale when he drops it in Booty Bay.
What time?
Yeah.
What time? Sorry.
5 server.
5 seconds. Cool. Right.
Did the head just go off? Seriously?
Yes, I'm gonna save my head now.
It'll drop again.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
We'll probably drop like 3 more times on the server.
I'm going to log out in STP just in case.
I think
Yes,
it's
sir.
actually reset from this whole server reset. I think they've only dropped one head so far.
Yeah, there's only one.
Yeah, if we have an Nixia head, we could just do it ourselves.
Let's get a good call out for that though. I'm just missing ZG in that.
We haven't done that in a while.
Clusterfuck of a server with their head organization.
Yeah, they've had like 3 different head things, and they've all been deleted. And
The
then
most remarkable thing is the Neff head has been open, I think, until now for almost an hour with no one dropping.
that was probably a coordinated drop as well.
All right, back on topic with the whole thing that we were just doing.
Yeah, I think for self accountability and self knowledge that while we will try to update the guild message of the day with important information that will have some sort of longevity to it, the best place to go for information regarding anything happening in the guild is always has been and always will be either the Discord or messaging.
So I will say, and this is kind of bringing it up twice, but like there's a million different tabs for raid team, like like there's raid team sign up, raid discussion, raid attendance, CG sign up, raid night sign up. Like I don't know where to.
Yeah.
And I've had people like come, like I've
Didn't
had.
you make a new Discord?
I did, as an example though. Just to kind of see if that would work better for some people.
I've been trying to clean up Discord. The problem with it is if you have too few channels, then there can be a lot of discussion in one channel, and important information can be missed there. So like I'd have to keep up with pins and stuff, and people would have to look into pins. So it's just it's another different layer people will have to go through to find information. So that is something I've been trying to work on.
Kind of hard because like we made role channels, which I think was a great idea, but like at least like last week for instance, the Warriors and the Rogues still use their channel all the time.
Yeah.
Archive.
Right.
I don't know if people really care about a lot of the Warrior sims, so like I don't know. It's a hard thing to slim down because then the Rogues would have no idea how to find the rogue thing in melee DPS if the rogue channel was gone.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that's being discussed in the Rogue channel can be found with a few clicks of a button in the Rogue Classic Discord. But yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, I think really specific stuff is still cool for archive channels, but I felt like it'd be better to have it down so that we can try and promote discussion between classes and stuff. So
Well, thank you guys. Thank you.
One thing I do want to say though is that I know there's a mention of pins, which I believe if the very important information started to be pinned, it would be very easy for people to find it instead of having to do minutes and days and years of scrolling in one channel.
There's also a search function.
Yeah, I've been trying to pin stuff and be better, but I've also been working every day and also working over like every day. So
he's distracted if we want to go.
Sorry, just a question, a random question. I just need to be an STV for the buff, right? Like anywhere in the STV. Cool.
I thought it was either
you gotta be on Mohammed Jamba Island or Booty Bay.
Yeah,
really?
That's what I was tracking.
My bad.
So Booty Bay or the island? Okay.
Yeah.
There are a ton of guilds that just flew in right now, by the way, so there might be some people dropping a heart.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't Knight gonna drop it at like 5?
Yeah, I just flew down here to log out here, but theoretically.
Yeah, it's no cooldown on it, so no big deal.
By the way, there's currently a DM tribute clear going on, courtesy of your friendly neighborhood guildies. So if you want those, start heading down here.
Oh, you guys are done already?
No, we're not done. We're in the process.
Who's leading that group?
Go over there.
Our bear druid.
Who?
Okay, wait.
Our bear druid.
Ill? Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going? Should we log out at Booty Bay or go run for those?
I mean, you got plenty of time.
I'm gonna bank on head being dropped one more time and just go over there.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's been pretty consistently dropped at
all damn day Saturday.
10
Or
minutes
Friday.
before raid almost every week.
So we know Knight is dropping his Hakar hard or whatever twice over, right?